Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Those Geeks. He's Alex, I'm Joe, and we're back at our regularly scheduled timing and on Saturday, but you guys don't know that, but we do. And we are going to discuss all the haps around last week's SDCC haps.
Apps. It's funny. I was thinking they don't know when we're recording, and then you said that,
Exactly.
and I was like,
Yeah,
that's entirely valid. We're back on our schedule. Fingers
right.
crossed for you. It's the same thing either way. I'm not sure when you listen to us.
Exactly.
We started up this morning by saying what do we have to talk about, and then we knew what we weren't going to talk about purely
hmm
because we talked about it ad
We
nauseum for
beat
an
it
hour
to death.
last week,
Yeah, yeah,
and while I know there's still more for us that we want to unpack, I
Oh,
don't
definitely.
like. I've only seen it once still at this point. I don't
Yep.
think we're gonna do that today. In fact, I
No,
know we're not doing that today. We're gonna wait until we've seen it at least once more each,
no,
and
but there
had a
was
bit of time
something
to sit on. But yeah,
massive MCU related that happened at SDCC, and it was like I heard a rumbling about it like a year ago that it was a like a what if possibility, and I just dismissed it because I was like, no, he's totally done. It's not going to happen. But they brought out Doom with the Russo brothers, right?
hmm
And they basically said that they're pivoting. Kang is out the window. That storyline is just dead in the water. They're going a different direction to go into Secret Wars. And what better person to use than the person from Secret Wars, in my opinion, both the original and the redo from 2015 Battle World. They finally brought out Doctor Doom, which is pretty much their biggest ace in the hole after Thanos. Like, if you think about who is the biggest villains that they could bring into the MCU proper, Doom is, for me, Doom has always been number one. It's just been about how and when. I mean, obviously he's tethered to the Fantastic Four, so people feel like that's how he comes in. But I love how that's not how he comes in. And we can talk about the Fantastic Four after Doom, but this was like stunning. And the way they did it was pure just genius. Like, they had all these guys dressed as Doom with plastic masks and hoods on the stage, like a ton of them. And then one guy walked out slowly, dressed a little bit different, a little more opulent. And I swear to God, if you watch the clip, when Robert Downey Jr., because that's who was revealed to a massive, massive reaction, rightfully so. I think he said Jared Leto as a joke, like right before he pulled off his mask, because I heard somebody say, like very softly, like, and introducing, and he was like, Jared Leto. And then he pulled off his mask and it was Robert Downey Jr. And people went crazy. And it was like the shock heard around, the Marvel world, rightfully so. But then after the shock, people started turning on it, which is very interesting. Like, people were like, hold on, wait a minute. We're so happy that RDJ is back. But now they're like, how are they going to do this? How is this going to happen? Like, what's going on? And there's a huge vocal fan base that is pissed off that this is happening. And I think it's interesting
so
because, go ahead.
I was going to say I think this is where what we wanted to focus, or what I was planning on
hmm
focusing on, wasn't necessarily the casting, because we'll get to our thoughts on that
Okay.
and speculation where that's going to go, but more the reaction to it.
Right.
Now, I'll be the first to admit, when I first saw it, I don't think I was super happy with the casting,
Right.
right? Because
You did say that.
yeah, it's not. It wasn't my first. Wouldn't have been my first choice, and I think part of that is, does that mean we're gonna get an Iron Man variant again, like
Right.
another Iron Man? Does it mean that we're gonna have, how that's gonna go?
Right.
In my mind, this is what we're going to see. Like, we've already seen Robert Downey Jr. play a role. Do we really need
Yep.
more Robert Downey Jr. when we could have a newer face in the role?
hmm
And then you had mentioned, and I want to find what you actually said,
I'll
because
say
the
it.
what
What it was is, I'm 110% all in on this. And to me, I think this is the best choice they could have made for Doctor Doom at this point, because nobody else that you casted would have got the crazy reaction and the
No.
fan base
Oh,
talking the way this is. And the
absolutely not.
other thing that makes sense is, remember, the MCU is its own animal. It pulls from Marvel canon, but it creates its own. And also, it does, like, it just becomes something different, which is exciting. It's the Russo brothers. So for me, it makes sense because the Russo brothers are responsible for Endgame, and they're responsible for what's it called, Infinity War, and
Mhm.
that stuff. So basically, what you're doing is the person who was responsible for saving the universe is now going to be the one who's attempting to destroy it, and that's where I think the story is. It's so integral. I hope they push it like that. I really do, because to me, that's what's interesting. You had the savior, and now he returns. And obviously, it's probably going to be a variant because our Tony Stark is dead, right? But when the
Yeah.
Avengers see him, they're not going to know what to do with themselves, because it's still going to be Tony to them. And they're going to be just like off their game. And like, what the hell did they do? Do they fight him? Do they, you know what I mean?
So they try and
And
get him back. Yeah.
exactly. And there's a couple stories that I know are very prevalent. They're not great though. That's the only issue. So I hope they do their own thing that they can pull from with Tony Stark as Doom. Like there was one called, what was it? Demon in a
Demon in a bottle? No.
no, Demon in a Bottle. No, it was a rip off that, but it was Tony Stark taking over Doom's armor. It was
It
Demon in the
wasn't.
Armor. It was
Oh,
Demon in the
okay.
Armor. It was
Because
like 20.
I know they had a superior Iron Man as well.
Right. They could also go that route, but
Yeah.
that was Victor Von Doom basically trying to live up to Tony Stark's example. He was trying to actively be a hero. It was still Victor Von Doom. The way this is presented, unless I'm totally wrong, I feel we're getting Tony Stark as Doom, full fledged.
Yeah.
This is our Doctor Doom.
That
And
that's how
so,
that's what I'm thinking is that you're going to get Tony Stark as Victor Von Doom, and then
right.
if you really want to have a Victor Von Doom later, you still can.
Yeah,
There's nothing preventing that. It's just I think that
exactly.
given the trajectory of the Marvel Universe or the MCU over the last few movies, really we've had as many misses as we've had hits.
Right.
So I
But I
think that
think this is going to be a massive hit.
oh,
Like,
I
given their track record,
100% agree. I just
yeah.
think that they needed this to get people talking in a positive way about
Hmm.
the franchise again,
Yeah, they
because
had to
especially
wash away
after
Jonathan Majors.
yeah, which I thought he was fantastic as Kang.
He was
Um,
amazing.
he was great, but I know that's not the direction they were going in anymore. So they needed to pivot and pivot hard so that people are going, well, I think Kang would have been better than this.
Exactly.
So you needed something significant to pivot to.
Yeah,
And
like
I
you
and I think
needed a Thanos level bad,
yeah.
period.
And even if people don't know who Doctor Doom is, the fact that Robert Downey Jr. is playing him adds to it in I guess, like a more of a meta level where
Exactly.
you have that we recognize as the audience that this is going to be a threat, and
Right.
then you go, oh, but what about this? And like you said, we're thinking of possibilities as to what could happen in advance or as well as everything else. So
Me
I
personally, I don't think he's going to go by the name Victor Von Doom.
no, I think
I
it'll
I
be Tony
really
Stark.
don't. Yeah, it'll be
Sorry.
from whatever reality he's coming from. He'll be that Tony Stark,
And
and whatever shaped him. Maybe he knew Doom. Maybe he spent time in Latveria, after his parents, like whatever. He
yeah,
will have made a change in trajectory that set him into being like a despot.
agreed. No, I agree. I agree. And it would be interesting if they had. I don't think they'll do this because I think it'd be too complex for a movie or two. If they
Mhm.
had a Victor Von Doom as the almost like the superior Iron Man, where he's trying to take down Tony Stark with other methods. So
Yeah.
I would be curious if you do see a Victor Von Doom either through the Fantastic Four or through something else,
See,
or if
I
this is
don't
a
think you're gonna get Doom in the
I
Fantastic
don't
Four.
I don't think so either based on this. I wonder if they're going to bring
No.
yeah, I don't know. At this point, any speculation we have clearly shows that it can change on a whim. It's like, well, maybe we'll do it this way instead, or maybe this will happen. So
Right.
I
But
think
you
that
also got to remember, I feel like these two movies are the final days of the multiverse
Mhm.
in the MCU completely. So they're going to utilize it, right?
Yeah, I think
And
the multiverse, the thought was great. I think the execution has suffered a bit,
yeah, like
and
Deadpool did it right.
Deadpool did it really well.
Right. So, and there's more juice, which is obviously, that was the good thing. We said we weren't going to talk about Deadpool, but this is
We
just a sidebar.
Yeah.
The good thing about Deadpool was everyone, including myself, went in thinking that that movie was a vehicle to get him and Wolverine, or even just him, into the MCU
Yep.
proper and erase the Fox timeline so it's gone. But that didn't happen. It still exists simultaneously because they saved it, which
Mhm.
I thought was brilliant because
Yeah.
they're saying goodbye, but to that window. But Deadpool also will no doubt be in the MCU proper. They'll find a way to put,
One way or
yeah,
another, he's gonna show up.
yeah. And honestly, I think Robert Downey Jr. coming back opens the door 100% for Chris Evans as Cap again.
Oh, 100%.
100% as a version of Cap for sure. And
mean,
I'm for it.
even if you get like Nomad, or it's a Captain America from that world, or the Steve Rogers from that world who isn't Captain America. He's someone
Yeah,
else. So,
yeah. I mean, let's be very honest here. The MCU was at its highest with the original core.
mhm.
Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, who am I forgetting? The core Avengers, the
Yeah.
very first iteration. It was at its highest. Every movie that they were in did amazing. When you tried to wean us off of that cast and give us replacements, we saw what happened. People didn't take to them. They did not gravitate.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they were too good. They didn't gravitate. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I really like Sam Wilson as Captain America, Anthony Mackie. I couldn't remember his
I
name for the
do.
life of
I
me.
do.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with him, like when he gets a chance to be Captain America in his own full movie,
Right.
a movie that's actually written and not doesn't have to have changes made because of a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how that's going to go down.
Well, also, I heard that that movie is supposed to be more in line, like, with Winter Soldier
It
and that
looks like
level of
it.
storytelling. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Grounded.
it looks like it, and if that's the case,
Yeah.
I'm really happy for that.
Yeah. Like, I agree 100%. But I do think, what's his name? Sam needs to get the super soldier serum in the movie somehow, some way
Mhm.
for it to be better. Like, he cannot be full fledged Cap without the serum. Just me personally, because he has it in the comics. He had it since the 70s. It just wasn't as strong as Steve, but he had it.
Yeah,
Bucky has it too. Like, everyone who's been Cap has it. So, like, he's not Batman, and it's just, I
he,
mean,
he needs
I don't know.
something to give him the edge. But maybe
Yeah,
that's the angle that they're going for in the story. Maybe he doesn't have that edge. Maybe he's got a like he
yeah,
relies on. I don't know. I'm
we'll see. But there's a lot of openings. Like you said it a few minutes ago. You're like, hey, maybe this opens the door down the road for us to get a Victor Von Doom proper by just introducing Doom. You're right, because who's to say? We got John Krasinski as Fantastic, Mr. Fantastic already, but we're going to get Pedro Pascal. Now,
Mhm.
you and I are comic book geeks and we know how this works, but the general audience, just regular, Johnny Go movie, doesn't understand that fully. So it's probably jarring that, you had John Krasinski and now you're getting Pedro Pascal.
Yep.
But that's what the multiverse does. It gives you that vehicle and opportunity.
I wonder in some ways if that hinders or helps the MCU.
I'd say
Like
both.
for yeah, like for people that are into comics and understand, and even not even just comic fans, but sci-fi fans, fantasy fans that understand or recognize alternate universes. Like I know that's a thing in Doctor Who.
Right.
I'm sure it's been a thing in Star Trek. I mean, it is a thing in Star Trek.
I believe they call it parallel universes, but
Yes.
same idea.
So I mean, you get the same kind of thing. So you would have, it's not a new concept exclusive to comics,
No,
but so that being the case, you're going to have a lot of people at least aware of the concept that you could have different people playing the same character across,
Right.
at the same time.
right.
How does that impact though people who aren't super into fantasy but just like watching superheroes? You know,
So for that, I think it hurts them because it becomes confusing.
Yep.
Because instead of
That's
being
my
able,
thought too.
yeah, and instead of able to like lock onto a character that you're following, it changes all of a sudden with like no warning. The other reason I think it hinders, it's a great vehicle and gives you great moments. Like you have the opportunity to do anything. Every threat can be averted because you have the multiverse. So you can do whatever you want. You can bring in whoever and have any cool moment. The bad part of it is it's like X-Men on Krakoa with the resurrection protocol. There's really like, okay, we
There's
kill
no
off our
threat
Steve
to it.
Rogers, but there's another one out there that we can just bring in if we want them. That's what sucks
Yeah.
because it's like the ultimate excuse. And that's why I really hope after Secret Wars, they're completely done with the multiverse.
I do
all
think
over.
that's why I enjoy Deadpool doing exactly that to save his world.
Right.
Even though it says right in it, it could be thousands of years before anything happens, but this world has started. He's like, nuh-uh. I thought, again, I know I also won't talk about it. I thought
You
that
can.
addressing that in the Deadpool Wolverine movie was a great way to bring it up for future down the road for the MCU.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more groundwork laid in that movie than we realize, and we probably won't recognize it until even Secret Wars or something that comes afterwards. What are we getting between now and Secret Wars? Captain America.
We're getting Captain America Brave New World.
That's what, yeah, Brave New World.
And that's in February.
Is there a Thunderbolts movie coming?
Yes. So I think that's the end of next year, leading into Doomsday, which is the first of the two-part Avengers movies.
Doomsday is in 2027, isn't it?
No, it's in 2026, and then Secret Wars is 2027.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just like Endgame, they're going to be back to back.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to the timing, so I'm guessing it's Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and then Doomsday in 1 year, and then the next year you're going to start probably with Secret Wars and go from there.
Oh, Fantastic Four as well. I'm sorry, we get Fantastic Four next year. I just forget when. I think it's in April or May.
If only we were at machines that had the power to look this information up.
Right? If there was only a way.
Only a way
this was chronicled that we could catalog and find this stuff, but nope, there isn't. So being funny with that, I have thoughts on the Fantastic Four teaser, and you know how big of a Fantastic Four fan I am. You saw it, I'm guessing, right?
The what? The trailer?
The little teaser trailer they did at Comic-Con.
Nope, because well, you know my stance on
okay, it's
trailers.
Nothing spoiler at all. Like you wouldn't get a plot if you tried.
Yeah, see that I usually wait to see a trailer until after you've told me if it's if I'm going to get any spoiler from it.
So I will tell you, but I'll just give you the gist of it. The high part of it that I'm extremely excited for, like beyond excited, is the last moment of the trailer where Galactus, full-fledged, is peering into a skyscraper window. Like you see his eye and a bit of the helmet. So excited for that. What I'm kind of on the fence with is completely the Fantastic Four themselves and how they're being presented. Like I don't know. I love Pedro Pascal. And what's her name? I don't really know Vanessa Kirby too much. She looks great as Sue. It's just the way they're presented. It's like, it's definitely better than the fucking remake with, Digital Doom. But as far as the original Fox Fantastic Four, as hokey or, disjointed as that movie was, the core cast felt like a family.
I agree.
Like they had it. Even Jessica Alba, who I was against, I still liked her. And I loved Ian Grufford as Reed. He was so good. And Johnny was perfect. He was perfect. So like I loved that. It was fantastic and it was like space, driven and it was sci-fi. This one, if you watch it, my dad would love this. Like I wish he'd come alive to watch the 2 minutes. You're basically feel like you're watching the countdown to a NASA shuttle launch.
Hmm.
The tone is not superhero at all. The tone is very much these are astronauts. This is what they do. They're not superheroes. They're not trying to save the world. They're just going out on a mission to explore and something happens to them. And when they come back, they're just dealing with it, but they're not like, wow, we have these great gifts. We should utilize. It is not that tone at all. But they don't have a family tone, is what I don't understand. Like I like Reed and Sue. I think their casting's decent. Johnny and Ben, I can't stand. I just don't like Ben's tall and what Ben should be, but no attitude of Ben. And Johnny just after you see Chris Evans as Johnny, like it's just
Especially rewatching him again.
yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
letdown. The guy has none of Johnny's humor, none of Johnny's like style. Like they're missing the mark. Like I don't know what they're going for. And it's also a very dated timepiece movie, which also makes it more confusing. And I want to explain that. So this takes place firmly in 1963 when the Fantastic Four were created. Like every reference is dated. Like they have mystery date. At one point in the trailer, Ben Grimm as the Thing is in shadow and he's, contestant or, bachelor number 3. And like they just jump around. I mean, yeah, that could be a funny moment, but like it's so dated that there's no way to mistake it for 1960. So my question is, if this is supposed to be in the MCU and collapse into it, where have these guys been? Have
Right.
they been
Yep.
retired since 2020 because they would be doing it for 40 years? Are they immortal because of their powers? Like, how are you going to explain that? And that's why I think Doom isn't going to be any part of it. I almost think that this is going to be like its own pocket thing, that it's a one movie that, takes place in the 60s. And then at some point, they're going to get time displaced into the current day and it will be, fish out of water type thing. Because that's the only thing that confuses me because there would be history of these people in the MCU. Like there
Agree.
would be records, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But supposedly Iron Man and the Avengers were the first superhero team.
So
So
I
like,
wonder if they're phrasing it in that they're not they never considered themselves as superheroes.
yeah, it's just really weird though
Or
because
maybe they're in the yeah, I don't know. I'm curious
that's
to see
what
how it's gonna
yeah.
how it will come out. While we were talking, I was looking up the different phases, and I had no idea that we're currently in phase 5 of the
Yeah,
MCU.
the multiverse phase, right?
Yeah, well, so the multiverse saga phase 4 was 2021 to 2022,
Hmm.
and those movies consisted of, let me just click to it and scroll. Uh, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way
Ugh,
Home,
yeah,
Multiverse of Madness, Love and Thunder, and Wakanda Forever. Not,
one great movie.
yeah, yeah, that's
Really.
fair.
I mean,
I mean,
Shang-Chi I did like, but one
Shang-Chi
great
was
movie.
good. There was one great movie, a couple of
Yeah.
good movies, and some other like
Like I'll
even
yeah,
Eternals. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it at the time, but I have no intention of rewatching it.
you and everybody else. But
Right?
even Feige canceled Eternals 2 finally. He was
Yeah,
like, yeah, this isn't happening. Thank God. Read the room, guy.
yeah.
And
And
also don't make another Marvels. Like fuck.
I still haven't seen
Jesus.
that. So then you have for Phase 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania,
Yep.
Guardians 3, The
That was
Marvels,
great. Yep.
Deadpool and Wolverine,
Yep.
Brave New World, and Thunderbolts.
Okay, so far two great movies, like two stellar movies
Yeah.
out of those three.
I've
But
of the four that have come out, I've seen 3 of them,
mhm,
and for me, there is a great, and average.
yeah. So like the for me, what I think the problem with the MCU is, it fell apart after Thanos.
Mhm.
They had nothing to follow up Thanos with. And Thanos was the big bad, and it makes total
Yeah.
sense that he is that guy. But you spent what, 12, 13 movies building to the
It,
confrontation with Thanos?
do you know what it felt like to me? I
What?
don't disagree with what you were about to say. What it felt like to me is that they had the plan, and once Thanos happened, the idea was to just let people tell the stories they wanted to tell. You didn't have to watch everything if you didn't want to watch everything,
Right.
and that was going to be the way it was going to go. And I wonder if that was a Bob Chapek thing, the CEO of Disney at the time. Like, you know what, do what you want. Don't have people, just make good stuff. It doesn't have to all interconnect anymore. It's just we're going to tell stories in this world.
I
Well,
find that hard to believe. I feel
see,
like what happened was the Russo brothers were done
hang on,
for
let me
now.
let me
Okay.
let me finish that thought. So
Okay.
after Chapek got fired,
Hmm.
oh fuck, I can't remember his name now, but the
Oh,
guy, the
Bob Iger.
Iger came back, and
Hmm.
Iger had said that we're going to reduce the amount of stuff we're putting out needlessly,
Right.
and that's when things start to seem to be more focused again. Now, you and I, especially with movies, I know you and I prefer a more focused storytelling,
Very much. Yes.
right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that way for comics, because comics, like, 4 or 5 issues, you know what, not my thing.
Right.
I'm happy to read it. It's fine. Someone's going to enjoy it, or you can pivot. It doesn't, like, a bad selling series doesn't ruin the career. Generally, won't hinder people the long term. A badly
Right.
received movie can absolutely destroy things. Look at
Batman Robin.
Batman and Robin.
Yep.
I was trying to think, like,
Superman for the Quest for Peace ruined
yep,
Superman for a very
e-
long time.
even Superman Returns, one could argue,
Yep.
didn't really start it back up again,
Yep.
right? You've got some of the Fox stuff. X Men 3, really, they reset everything, and then you had Dark Phoenix, and like, yeah, we're done.
Yep. Agreed.
So a bad movie can really fuck things up. And I
Right.
think that, given that we had when you look back at Phase 4 of the MCU, there is no cohesion in that story whatsoever.
No. It's
It's
just
not
a bunch of different projects
it's not
existing.
like, so Phase 1. This is the one I would understand no cohesion. So Phase 1 had the Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron
Yep.
Man 2, Thor,
Hmm.
and Captain America: The First Avenger. There is
Right.
the only cohesive thing in all of that is Iron Man and Iron Man 2, and I think at the end of Hulk you see Tony Stark, right? Like, it
Well,
ties it in a little bit, but it's deliberately so, because it's the introduction of all of these characters to people. So you're going to get, and holy shit, Iron Man came out in 2008,
yep.
right? So you're gonna get this thing where there's not a lot of cohesion with that, but there was never really meant to be. And Phase 4 didn't really introduce a whole lot of new characters.
Right.
I I would argue that Guardians of the Galaxy being in Phase 2 doesn't necessarily need to be included in that. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, in terms of, like, it doesn't have any impact on Avengers up until much later in the series, but they still have to be introduced somewhere.
Right. Well, I would disagree only with your thing saying that, Iron Man 2, and then Tony Stark showing up at the end of Incredible Hulk. Yes, those all tie together through Tony Stark. But also, you got to remember that Nick Fury
Oh,
is
that's
in
right.
Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, and
And
who's
in
in the
Captain
end.
America.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I
they
forgot that.
are cohesive. But Thor isn't in Phase 1?
Yeah, Thor's considered Phase 1, but I
Okay,
think you get
so
Coulson in.
Thor.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so it still
Coulson.
ties Shield.
Yeah. Okay, so that actually makes my point about Phase 4 being less cohesive even more of a stark one, because tell me how Black Widow and Shang-Chi are tied together,
They're not.
Eternals and Shang-Chi.
I don't know about Eternals. I have never finished it.
Yeah, right, valid. But so, Black Widow, I still believe Black Widow should have been in Phase 3, or even Phase
Black
2.
Widow should have been placed see, they try to like shoehorn it as a flashback movie
Hmm.
after obviously the events of Endgame, which only one scene in it shows that it took place after Endgame with Yelena Belova. But
Yeah.
otherwise, the whole movie should have been placed before Infinity War,
Hmm.
because at the end of Black Widow, before the cut scene or the end scene, Black Widow is in her Infinity War uniform,
Yeah.
and so like yeah, I agree, 100%.
It now that said, at least Black Widow does introduce Red Guardian and Yelena Belova.
Hmm. Right,
Shang-Chi obviously introduces Shang-Chi and everyone else. Like Eternals, an entirely new cast of people that aren't really related to anyone else at this time.
right,
No Way Home reset Spider-Man
correct.
effectively. Doctor Strange is fine and enjoyable and continues Wanda's story a bit, but that's pretty well it.
Yep, I agree.
And Thor introduces Hercules at the very end in a bonus sequence that is probably going to be forgotten.
It means nothing,
Yeah.
right?
And I mean, Wakanda Forever, it had to happen because of Chadwick Boseman's unfortunate passing. We
Right.
needed to reset that some or reset the character, and I think that the way they did it was fantastic. So all of these things, I think I've just talked myself back around to I get the lack of cohesion is that it's a reintroduction of characters.
Right. So what I think the biggest problem was is the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and Disney Plus was an easier way to keep content fresh
Hmm.
in people's minds without them forgetting the MCU, because no one knew when a big Hollywood production was going to go back into business, so they could do smaller sets and whatever. And it had a good idea. Keep content going
Yeah.
for the time being. Like WandaVision was for me, the MCU or Disney Plus, the shows that should have been made, WandaVision was key. I think
Yeah.
WandaVision could have went a little longer and tied to things more in the meantime, but WandaVision was key. Falcon and Winter Soldier was not necessary. It just gave you something to watch. Um, Moon Knight, I really loved. Not necessary. She-Hulk, not necessary. Only one that was necessary, besides WandaVision, in my view, was Loki, for the telling of the multiverse and to understand and get acquainted with the idea of how all this shit works in
I
case you
think
get lost.
I think Loki and What If.
Oh yeah, the what if too, I would agree. You're right.
Now
But
that said, so I
mhm,
I thoroughly enjoyed uh, Hawkeye. I thoroughly
very
enjoyed
much.
Moon Knight.
Yep.
I think Hawkeye was again. It didn't have to be made, but
No.
I loved the way it tied up Clint Barton's story after the end of everything.
Yeah,
How it
I agree.
kind of pushed Yelena Belova a little bit further forward and introduced her. So I think a lot of the TV series are the setup for Thunderbolts
I could see that. Yeah.
because you have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier introducing. Uh,
What's her name? Yeah, Allegra
oh
DeFontaine or whatever her name is.
yeah, I was going to say the lady from Seinfeld
Yeah,
whose name I've also completely forgotten.
Valentina Allegra DeFontaine or whatever.
Yeah, so Valentina. Then you had Wyatt Russell as John Walker.
Right.
Have Bucky Barnes kind of being reestablished as what he's doing. So you have those showing up. Then you have, I mean, yet again, Yelena Belova's story is furthered in Hawkeye. You get Red Guardian.
Hmm.
So I think that there's a lot of stuff that happened, and it isn't necessarily a bad thing that it did. I think that there's a lot of, like you said, that with the pandemic, things are being pushed out so quickly.
But it was also oversaturation. Like people
Exactly.
got tired of
Yep.
shit. Like
Exactly.
the smart move, even though it was risky, would have been WandaVision and then maybe one more show until movies came back and
Yeah,
a big space in between.
they
Not
they should have they
every
should
month.
have done. Well, that's just it. They should have done. Even if you keep the same ones coming out,
Hmm.
right? Even if you have the same ones coming out, you have one division January to March, And then March, you have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like 6 episodes from March to April.
Right.
Right. Like, and then Loki, June to July. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different series coming out in the same year.
Right.
WandaVision,
It's too much.
You could have spread that out a lot more. Like Hawkeye ending the year was fantastically timed for November. What if as a cartoon, you know what, you could probably just put an episode of that out every so often. It didn't have to be every week.
Right.
Push Loki down a bit closer to Hawkeye. Hell, switch Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then you have the 2 core ones that you want people to see, and then the other the bonus street level stuff.
Right, but they were all pushed and they were told and sold as these are integral for the next phase. Like they all connect.
We would have been better if you'd have had the one of the WandaVision, Winter Soldier, or Loki pushed to 2022.
Right.
Because in 2022 you have Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk.
Right. But
if you'd have had
if
you'd have had WandaVision at the end of 2022 instead, well then it would have that phase would have ended on a significant high, as opposed to started out really strong and then it drifted off. Like I know some people weren't a huge fan of Moon Knight, and that's fine.
Right.
But phase 5, you start with Secret Invasion, which I still haven't finished. Loki, What If?
Oh yeah,
Echo,
Secret Invasion. Not very good.
Still haven't finished Echo.
I can't do Echo. I tried it twice.
Yeah, and then you have Agatha All Along, Eyes of Wakanda, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Daredevil Born Again.
Why do we need Agatha all along?
I'm sure we're going to find out.
So that's the issue I have, right? I didn't have the issue when I was getting the content originally. I was more than happy to get Disney Plus to tide me over. Like I was super stoked. But now that I got it, what I realized is it really watered down the product and the brand overall because it just oversaturated everything. Like the thing is, you know, you've got your core cast on these teams, and then you've got your tertiary characters. Not every single character warrants a solo show or a movie. Like there should not be that much effort into every single character. Like we don't need Jimmy Woo the series. You know what I mean?
No. You do need Jimmy Woo the series.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need...
I understand what you're saying. Like, of all, the ironic thing is you just happen to choose the one named character that you could have. But like, you know, I had actually watched a series of Jimmy Woo, just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Doing close-up magic,
yeah, like that would be fantastic. However, you're right. Like the essence of what you're saying and the nature of what you're saying is absolutely right.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone needed a series. Does Moon Knight need a series? I would argue that
I think Moon
Knight is better positioned to have a series than anyone else. Does Daredevil need a series? I think we've shown through the Netflix shows Daredevil is significantly better positioned as a TV character.
Agreed.
Or a serial character than a full movie. And then if he shows up in a movie, it's fantastic.
Right. Because I think with Moon Knight, even 2.5 hours with the psychological nature and content of his character, you can't do it justice. You really have to delve into it like wholly. I hope it gets a season 2. I just didn't like the last episode, but I did love Oscar Isaac.
I don't even care if it gets a season 2. As long as we see Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight again somewhere.
I hope so. I really, really do. But I honestly think they're going back to the drawing board. I think they're coming out with big guns for the next Avengers movies. And I think that's where their focus is. They're going back to basics. They're probably going to try their heart out to get most of the people that left. I'm sure they're going to roll a fucking truck of money up to Scarlett Johansson and be like, hey, listen, I know you said no, but please, you know, you don't have to play Natasha from that reality. Just play her from an all. You know what I mean? They're gonna try because that's what people want to see. And the reason it works now is how long ago was Endgame? 2019. So
Yeah.
you've had 5 years to miss these guys. Like if they brought Robert Downey Jr. back in 2021, it wouldn't have as much punch.
Oh God, no.
Right. So
I think the advantage, and I hate saying this because I hate saying anything about the pandemic was good just because of the number of
right,
people we lost. And
of course.
that said, I think that one of the things to come from the pandemic is how distended our concept of time has become.
Yeah, oh, big
If
time.
you told me how long ago did Endgame come out, I'm like, I don't know, maybe like 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, it would
Because
feel like that, right?
that yep, and that period between February, March of 2020 to, I mean, I would argue almost 2021, like March,
All of
February of
2021, I would
2021.
say, yeah.
Yeah, like, so let's say up to 2022 or like January of 2022,
Right.
almost 2 years feels like a lot closer to 5 or 6.
100%. It's like a time capsule because
Yep.
it's just, and you know, it's funny because even today, I was talking with my buddy. I was trying to remember what year the pay per view was that Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole debuted in AEW. And for the life of me, I couldn't fucking figure it out. I was like, oh, it was 2020, right? I'm like, no, that don't make sense. Oh, it was 2021. And I was like, well, they debuted before Punk. No, they debuted after Punk. Like my whole time, exactly like you
It's
said, off.
everything's gone.
Yeah.
And I think that, so the advantage to us no longer knowing how long ago certain things were is that we probably miss some of these characters that much more
Right.
than you would have, even if like nothing had happened like that, you would still miss
Hmm.
them. But now, instead of it being 5, 6 years, by the time, 5 or 6 years, it feels like it's closer to 10 to 12.
Exactly. It feels so much longer. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, don't get me wrong, 5 years is a significant amount of
Hmm.
time to miss somebody. But like you said, Endgame feels like 10 years ago at this point
And I
because of
think
how much content we've got.
how much content and just the way the time is felt. So
Right.
I again, I agree with you. Like, it has been severe, like such a weird mess of time and how it's all gone about.
Yep.
So I'm
Like, overall, as a whole, as an entirety, I still think the Marvel MCU is the best um, entertainment saga of all time
oh, I agree with that.
for for our genre.
Yeah.
It is by far the best. It has the best quality. It has the best planning. I mean, yeah, does it have pitfalls? Of course, like we saw it. But Deadpool and Wolverine, to me, did exactly what it was supposed to do. It reinvigorated the Marvel
Hmm.
universe. It broke records. Now
You,
its job is to get people excited to see Fantastic Four and X-Men and all that stuff coming.
exact. So I read that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has roughly 220 uses of the word fuck.
Oh, and the whole universe?
The whole MCU.
Really? Because
Yeah.
Deadpool's got like 112 alone.
Oh, no, Dead so Deadpool and Deadpool 2 technically don't count in the MCU in this case.
Right, they're fucked.
Guard yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy has one use of it.
Mm,
Every
mm,
other time comes from Deadpool and Wolverine.
that's hilarious.
Right? I
I
think
believe it. I
I
believe it.
I mean, I don't intend to watch every single movie and everything just to verify, so I'm going to trust the source.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious that they have, like, and they went full force with it too. So again, I think it was fantastic.
The thing, like I
It's
said this the other day, the thing about Deadpool and Wolverine, like we were so excited to see it. It delivered for both of us on all fronts. For me, it
Yep.
exceeded expectations.
Oh,
But
same.
it's one of those movies that absolutely, just not just because it's a guilty pleasure, but it warrants multiple viewings because of how much detail and how much positioning and how much like things were chosen for the movie to like understand it completely. Like think about the beginning of the movie, the song choice for the
Hmm.
opening, bye bye bye. Well,
Oh
that's
fuck! I didn't even
bye bye
catch that.
bye.
Yep.
That's bye bye
Yep.
bye to this window of our universe. That's
Oh,
what it is. Yep.
you're
Uh,
absolutely right. Yeah,
So that's what
I
I'm
did
saying.
not catch that. So I again, and this is one of those movies where it behooves you to watch it multiple times. It really
Hmm.
does.
Yeah,
And I think that more than any other MCU movie, you need to watch this one again and again.
I think so. And the reason why, because for a casual viewer, it's a comedy.
Yeah.
It doubles as a superhero epic and a comedy and does them both perfectly. Like if you
Mhm.
don't like superhero movies, I guarantee you're still gonna like this movie, even if you just are okay with the concept of superheroes. But for the nerds like us, it does so much more. Like I have a humongous appreciation for Ryan Reynolds. I always
Oh,
have,
yeah.
but now more than ever because of how much they put in and how long and how careful they were with their choices. Like they were so smart. Like people were pointing out like the stuff that I missed, obviously, because you're in a theater and things go by. Like go back and watch the screens on the TVA and the stuff that you missed. And I'm like, holy shit, I missed all that stuff.
Hmm.
Like it's crazy.
It's funny when that was coming on. I was like, so does this mean that technically we can consider Thor or Chris Hemsworth as a cameo because there's a clearly a
Right.
unique theme film with
Yeah,
Deadpool? I think it does,
I think
but
so.
so when you're looking at it, and my friend was like, who's in the movie? I'm like, yes. Like, what do you mean? Like the answer to your question, who's in the movie, is yes.
That's
And
hilarious.
it wasn't until he went and he came back. He's like, when you said, I'm like, I was including the goodbye to Fox at the end, but also
Yep.
every single instance of something being on a TV screen.
Yep.
Yeah, like is it reused footage? Maybe. I would still consider that a cameo.
I'd consider it a cameo.
I mean, I would consider like Stan Lee as having a cameo in this, even though it was reused footage. He still
Yep.
was that. It was still Stan Lee. So
Agreed.
I like this is one of those movies where, unlike Logan, where I had to watch it multiple times just to appreciate it, and I really love it, and same reason for
Yeah.
Dark Knight, I'll just watch it again and again and again. I need to watch this one again just to get an idea of what in the hell is going on, because there is
There's
so
so
much.
many Easter eggs that like I
Hmm.
can't believe this person who chronicled them. He's what is he on? He's on a channel called Screen Crush. There was like 330 of them. I'm like, how
Yeah,
did you even catch these unless you had a screener copy? Like you couldn't catch these
I
in real time.
there's no
There's
way you
no way.
catch all of them in real time, and I think what probably happened was there may have been a team of them, and he just wrote the article.
Right. But you know what blew my mind? Like this one right here. Like this is how much Ryan Reynolds and his crew pulled from all of the MCU, like all of it. So we know Cassandra Nova is living in Ant Man's helmet, skull, the dead body, right? But you know who it's not?
It's not Paul Rudd.
No, it's it's from Quantum Mania when they had the scene where all those Ant Mans were running at the same time, and like there was that one giant one that reached too high and turned into like strands. It's his disembodied body because someone brought this up very smart. In the multiverse, anytime someone ends up in the void or something's time related, the person affected always turns into strands before it happens.
Yep. Yep.
Even Cassandra Nova at the end of this movie turns back into strands. So
So she goes
logically,
back to
she
the
goes
void.
back to where exactly. Like that's such a small detail, but it's so important that
Yep.
it got way by me. I had no clue. I
No.
thought, oh, it was Paul Rudd. Like he died.
I
It's a
I,
future.
I
Like
think
Ryan Reynolds.
especially with Deadpool just saying, huh, Paul Paul Rudd got old, so we all
Right.
naturally assume that's what it was.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So like the movie is so brilliant. Like I remember when I texted you and I was like, dude, the vehicles are
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
reappropriated vehicles from the Fox universe. I was like, how the hell did that get by me? Like the Fantastic Car. How did that get by me?
I
But
saw
it
the
got right by
Fantastic.
me.
Yeah, I saw the Fantastic Car, but I didn't catch the other ones.
They all got by me. Every single one.
Oh
Like
wow.
I had no clue.
Huh.
Now it makes sense, like Red
Yep.
Skull's Roadster. But at the time, I'm just like, oh, it's a Mad Max Roadster.
Oh, this
Like,
is yeah.
I had no clue. Yeah. So I mean, this was a topic that went further than I thought it would.
Honestly, I was trying to. When we start talking, I usually write the title of the episode and try and get a summary of what we're talking about as we're talking about it. And the title is Rambling About the MCU. And we started out talking about Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, and then we just talked about the rest of it. Like, I didn't really have any idea as to how do I summarize this really quickly, and you can't, because
You can't.
basically we're just talking about the MCU and our thoughts and everything. And I think at this point, I don't really have anything left to say. Not I don't have anything left to say. I think this is a good space for us to end where we're at, because
Agreed.
we could keep going, and as has often been shown, like
Cap, I could do this all day.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's only so much time I think people have to listen to us, and keeping stuff around an hour is usually good.
Yeah.
Usually a good window. So
agreed. 100%.
Folks, allow us this brief and somewhat surprising end. If you have any thoughts, let us know. I don't expect any of you to do so, but if you do, that would be I'll be interested to hear what you think about different things, the MCU, etc. What would our take on it as well. I forgot where I was going to go with that, so without further ado, I'll bid you good night and goodbye. And I fucked that up. God damn it.
I was just quiet.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.